Tehran are deepening ties across trade, energy and defense. Third, this is part of a larger Iranian strategy to break dependence on Western-dominated systems, whether it's SWIFT, the internet or satellite networks. But there is a key reason this move came now: a scandal which brewed inside Iran's war rooms. Iranian state media claimed that WhatsApp and Instagram had leaked the real-time locations of senior Iranian officials to foreign powers, particularly Israel and the United States. These apps, they alleged, broadcasted location data whenever phones were connected to the internet, a digital breadcrumb trail for hostile drones and missiles. While Meta, the parent company of WhatsApp and Instagram, owned by Mark Zuckerberg, has denied these allegations, insisting it doesn't collect or share precise location data and uses end-to-end encryption. Cybersecurity analysts say that the risk isn't in the message content, it's in the metadata, in the timestamps, communication frequency, and even approximate GPS data can be exploited, especially if spyware is involved. In response, Iran urged its citizens across the country, 90 million people, to delete WhatsApp and Instagram altogether, calling them tools of espionage. Now, this isn't just about paranoia. Some of Iran's most high-profile military assassinations, including those that happened during this current conflict, are now being traced back to potential leaks from digital communications. The country went on to lock down its internet for the same reason. Reports show that during June 2025 war escalation, the government blocked internet access by over 97%, including social and messaging apps. Despite WhatsApp's statement, the company has recently got another shock, as a couple of days ago, the United States House of Representatives also banned WhatsApp on all its members' devices. The notice to all House staff said that the Office of Cybersecurity has deemed WhatsApp a high risk to users due to the lack of transparency in how it protects user data, absence of stored data encryption, and potential security risks involved with its use. This goes far beyond digital surveillance. What you're about to hear is how GPS became one of the most powerful tools in US hands, and why China decided to quietly challenge that supremacy in space. BeiDou isn't just a replacement, it's a serious competitor to the GPS in the current environment, the geopolitics of which is encouraging a full divergence in technology systems between China, Russia, potentially some of the BRICS nations or the Global South, and the West. With a full constellation of global satellites, is delivering high accurate positioning, robust anti-jamming protections, and even a unique short message communication feature. Now, that last one is particularly important, especially in areas where traditional networks fail. Think of war zones, remote areas, or natural disasters. On the technological front, Iran gets access to precise navigation for civilian industries, from trucking and farming to telecom. Strategically, this is about sovereignty. Iran is signaling that it will no longer be vulnerable to American control over its critical infrastructure. And on a global scale, BeiDou is gaining momentum. Iran's move shows how China's system is not just a backup, it's becoming a first-choice alternative for countries who are seeking political independence. Please stay with me to the end to understand how GPS became our indispensable daily tool. Most of us would now be redundant without it. Are map reading skills even taught in schools any longer? Why the Chinese realize that the power that controls space controls the battlefield. How China's BeiDou stands relative to the United States GPS. And finally, how China will silently end up helping Iran in any future war. To truly understand this shift, we need to go back to how GPS became such a dominant force. It all started in the Cold War. When the Soviets launched the Sputnik in 1957, United States scientists discovered they could track its radio signal from the ground using the Doppler effect. and that led to the United States Navy building Transit, the first satellite navigation system for submarines in the 1960s. By 1973, the United States Department of Defense launched Navstar GPS, a unified military control system designed for global coverage. It used 24 satellites in orbit, controlled from ground stations, and offered 24/7 positioning, navigation, and timing. In 1983, after the Korean Air Flight 007 was shot down near Soviet airspace, President Ronald Reagan announced that GPS would be available to civilians, but with a signal degradation, so that it would not be as precise for civilians as it was for the military. Now, this was done for security reasons, obviously. It wasn't until 1995 that GPS reached full global functionality. But in 2000, President Clinton ended signal degradation. He unlocked high precision for civilian access. This was a turning point that's fueled everything from smartphones and Uber to precision agriculture and warfare. Now that's when everyday life started to change for all of us. By the late 2000s, people everywhere from Europe to Asia were relying on United States satellites. No more printing MapQuest directions. I don't know how many of you remember doing that, or wrestling with folded maps in the car. For those of you who remember driving and the fights in the car, you missed that turn, go back, why didn't you tell me I had to turn over there? GPS has probably saved a lot of relationships. By the late 2000s, with smartphones in our pockets, GPS became personal. GPS didn't just reshape warfare, it reshaped how we live our lives, how we move, how we communicate. However, it quietly also gave the United States an invisible hand in our daily lives, the lives of billions of people around the world. But behind that convenience was a deeper dependency. Whether you were delivering rice in Pakistan or guiding a ship in the South China Sea, you were using a system that the United States could turn off at any time. It drove trillions of dollars of activity worldwide. One 2024 study has estimated that one day outage of the GPS system would cost the United States alone $1.6 billion per day. Today, the GPS is run by the United States Space Force, and it's in the third generation, GPS 3. So it features stronger encryption and better jamming resistance. But remember, it's still under the United States military control. In a conflict, access can be cut. While GPS was once the undisputed king of sat-nav and a key instrument of American soft power, it now has a growing list of global navigation satellite system competitors. From China's BeiDou to the European Union's Galileo, Russia's GLONASS, and even India's regional system, the NAV-IC. However, without question, the most significant rivalry comes from China. China learned that lesson early. After watching United States forces dominate the Gulf War in 1991 with GPS-guided strikes, Chinese military leaders concluded that they needed their own system. But the 1996 Taiwan Strait crisis is widely regarded as that key triggering event that pushed China to begin developing its own satellite navigation system, what would eventually become BeiDou. In 1996, in response to the pro-independence moves and the first democratic elections in Taiwan, China conducted a series of missile tests near Taiwanese ports. The US reacted by deploying 2 aircraft carrier strike groups to the Taiwan Straits. It was a clear signal to Beijing, back down. During that standoff, China realized that its military was blind compared to US forces, which used GPS to coordinate naval and air assets with precision. It also realized that it relied entirely on the GPS, which the United States could cut off or degrade at any moment. In 1997, formal approval was granted to begin the BeiDou program. BeiDou 1 was launched in 2000 with just 3 satellites and some small regional coverage. BeiDou 2 followed in 2012, expanding its services across the Asia Pacific. but it was BeiDou 3, which was completed in 2020, that gave China full global satellite navigation capability. Now this system now has over 30 satellites and rivals GPS in many areas of the world. Overall, BeiDou now has around 45 to 50 operational satellites as compared to the United States GPS, which has 31. Now what further enhances BeiDou's power, the Chinese have many more ground stations than GPS. This is what helps to amplify and strengthen the signal even more. BeiDou's civilian service offers a much better positioning accuracy of around 1 meter in many parts of Asia and China, as well as parts of Africa, while GPS typically in those areas provides accuracy within 3 to 5 meters. While globally, BeiDou is said to have around 2.5 to 5 meters, which is similar to that of the GPS. Although some reports suggest that it outdoes GPS accuracy in over 165 countries. In simple terms, have you tried sending someone your current location? What pops up and tells you how close in meters it gets to where you are? Now, if you see mine on the screen when I was doing this, I made all the areas black for, security reasons. But you can see that the GPS in my area, where I was at that point, gets as close as 5 meters accuracy to where I was sitting at that time. Now, most phones support all global navigation systems out there, but generally what phones will do is they'll tap into any of the satellites that is closest to it and is giving it the best signal. But this isn't just about satellite counts, it's about who controls the infrastructure of war, trade, and everyday life, and what happens when that control quietly shifts. For military applications, it is said that BeiDou can achieve centimeter level accuracy, and it offers encrypted military channels as well as that short message function that lets users send text or location data without cell coverage. Now, that is critical for emergencies as well as battlefield scenarios. That is a unique strategic capability, something that GPS still does not offer. BeiDou now powers over 1.5 billion users worldwide daily. From smartphones and smart cities in China and Pakistan to logistic hubs in Africa, it's being used over the 140 countries, especially those under the BRI program. BeiDou is quietly becoming the backbone of the new tech ecosystem. It's a central pillar in China's Belt and Road Initiative, linking infrastructure with digital sovereignty. Over 30 countries in Africa are using it for precision agriculture, which has helped those countries to boost their yields by over 15%. And in war, BeiDou gives China and its allies, like Iran, a GPS-independent strike and defense capability within seconds precision. So when Iran shuts off GPS and turns on BeiDou, it's not just a software update, it's a geopolitical realignment. If BeiDou keeps rising, we may be watching the decline of America's uncontested digital empire. GPS is lagging in updates as per the United States' own Space Force Department. The US is currently replacing its 1990s era GPS satellites with newer GPS 3 satellites. However, those GPS 3 are still not trailblazing technology. They were originally intended to launch in 2014. Now, these satellites offer only a moderate improvement to the last GPS version. They just give a little bit of an upgraded accuracy, going from 3 meters down to 1 meters. This is less than what Galileo can already provide. GPS is expected to be followed by what is called GPS 3F. Now that's expected to provide additional capabilities such as that first completely digital navigation payload. However, this GPS 3F is not expected to take place until the mid-2030s. By 2035, China's aiming to make BeiDou the world's go-to system. Now that's not without its own issues. Unlike, for example, the European strict GDPR laws for data provision, China doesn't have any such thing. Now coming back to Iran, China's BeiDou satellite navigation system offers Iran a strategic upgrade at a time when the Western-controlled infrastructure is both a security threat and a geopolitical liability for the country. By shifting to BeiDou, Iran gains access to a secure, independent navigation network that cannot be degraded or cut off by the United States, unlike the GPS system. Now, this has immediate military implications, as you can imagine. Iranian drones, missiles, and air defense systems can now operate with enhanced precision using BeiDou's encrypted coordinates. The system's advanced anti-jamming capabilities and even that unique short message function, which allows limited text communications without cellular network, means that Iran on the battlefield gets much better resilience, especially in the event of any cyber attacks or electronic warfare being used. In a future conflict with Israel or during a regional escalation in the Gulf, these features could provide decisive, allowing Iranian forces to coordinate, navigate, and strike targets without relying on vulnerable United States-linked systems. Beyond the battlefield, BeiDou also strengthens Iran's civilian logistics and economic survival under the sanctions. Iranian oil tankers, cargo fleets, and overland trade convoys, they can now navigate using BeiDou instead of GPS, which helps Tehran to reduce its exposure to Western tracking and surveillance, especially through the so-called dark fleet tactics that rely on disabling transponders and avoiding detection. China's integration of BeiDou into its Belt and Road infrastructure also gives Iran a foothold in the Eurasian trade corridors. It deepens its connectivity through Central Asia and the Caspian region. Symbolically, Iran's adoption of BeiDou signals a technological realignment, a quiet but firm pivot away from Western digital hegemony and towards a China-led alternative order, where sovereignty is maintained not only through missiles and treaties, but also through satellite signals and code.